Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process in discussions between the authors, narrators, producers, and post-production teams that bring them all together, as well as guests who have listened to the audiobooks and have questions for the creative teams. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Hi, I'm Becky Parker Geist. I am the host of the Audiobook Connection podcast, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I am also president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association and the CEO and founder of Pro Audio Voices and Amplify Audiobooks, providing audiobook and podcast production, distribution, and marketing. I'm excited to have with me today Lenore Hirsch. Lenore is the author of Schooled, Confessions of a Rookie Vice Principal. She is also a retired educator living in California and writes in many genres. So Lenore, welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about Schooled, the work that we're currently in production of the audiobook with. And tell us a little bit about, where did this story come from?
Well, I was an educator for 31 years, including quite a few years as a teacher. Then I became a school administrator, and my first job was as a middle school vice principal. I went on to become an elementary school principal. And over the years, people, as I tell people my stories about all the crazy things that happen in schools, friends have always asked, why don't you write about that? And I've never had the desire to write a memoir. But at some point in time, I thought, I could write a fictional book about a fictional vice principal, and I could include some of the crazy things that I have experienced in my career. So that's what I did. So a lot of it is autobiographical, but it's been fictionalized to the extent that the author no longer remembers what was real and what was created.
It's easy for that line to blur, I think,
Yes.
Especially as we get so deeply into the writing itself. And what do you think your readers and listeners, what should they know about your protagonist?
Well, Cynthia Walker is in her mid-30s in her first job as a vice principal. And what I remember from those days myself is that, you think you do know a lot about youngsters and teaching. But when you go, in the classroom, you're focused on the curriculum and the reading and the writing and the math. And when you become an administrator, especially in a middle school, your focus goes from the curriculum to behavior, because that's what the vice principal deals with a great deal of the time. And so this is all new to Cynthia. So although she has confidence in her knowledge about education, she's not particularly confident about how she's going to handle all of these naughty kids. And she has a very difficult boss. She's both naive. She's very good-hearted. She cares a lot about the kids. She cares about the curriculum. And she's got a little bit of snark going too, which probably comes from my growing up in New York. So there are many comments to the reader, which is kind of unusual, but she does speak to the reader. When her boss does weird things, she'll make a comment like, "Can you believe that?" So
you're breaking that fourth wall at times with,
yes.
Which is fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the story is first person, but she does speak to the reader from time to time.
Yeah. So when you were a middle school administrator, I am curious because I've been an educator, many of the years of my life, I've been an educator in the school system. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Middle school, I've always thought that's the hardest one. I mean, wow, that takes a very special set of educators to step into that realm. Did you know going into that? I mean, Did you choose middle school, or that was what was available?
Well, I had been a middle school teacher.
Oh, okay.
I was a middle school special education teacher for, I don't know, maybe 8 years. So I was very familiar with the territory.
Okay.
And in my job, I dealt with some very difficult youngsters.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, I knew going into administration that your first job is at an assistant. And that's just the logical place where a lot of administrators start, regardless of their previous background. A lot of administrators start at the middle school level. So I knew it would be challenging, but, you know, in many ways, the middle school staffs are wonderful. They have to be kind of wacky to want to be there. And so it is a fun place to be with its many challenges.
Yeah. I have to tell you, so I was a substitute teacher in addition to just kind of running my own school age after school program where I didn't have to have the full credential, but I did have a sub credential. So I mostly worked with special needs kids, but I preferred the like preschool special needs. And I remember still, it was a long time ago now, but there was one day when I did special needs middle school. And at the end of that day, I thought, oh my God, never again. That was so hard. And I worked with a lot of kids, a lot of special needs kids at all different ages. But in that school setting that day was one of my toughest.
Well, I have to tell you that I've never been a substitute teacher. I think that is the most unsatisfying job that exists. And there's a chapter in my book where I detail a strike and where my character, Cynthia, ends up having to be the teacher for the kindergartners who show up with their video cameras, taping her while she makes up a crazy story. And that is a true experience that I had. And I often wonder that how many videos there are out there playing I guess that was in Fremont, of me sitting on the floor with a group of kindergartners making up a story about a bunny rabbit who goes to school for his first day and finds out the teachers are on strike. So I will tell you that, those young ones are not for me. You need a new lesson plan every 5 minutes.
Yeah. And it is challenging being a substitute teacher because the kids don't know you. They think they're going to get away with everything,
That's
even
right.
if you don't let them. And but it's like there's no getting to know you time. There's no yes, I am going to hold the boundaries time. It's just like
I think I've told people who are going to be substitutes, the most important thing to have with you is a bag of candy. You need to have some kind of reward if they do what you want them to.
Yeah. Wild. So that is, the fact that I didn't realize that you were a teacher teaching special needs in middle school. I just kudos to you. I think it's all the middle school teachers that I have gotten to know, and not that there are that many, but I have 3 kids, so they all went through middle school, right? Were just really lovely, wonderful people who really cared, because I think you don't last. If you that would not be the grade level if you don't just really love kids and know that they all, I don't know. It's just, I think that's great. So kudos to you.
And it actually makes for a good school administrator, because the administrators have to deal with all the problems that those children have. And the administrators who have no background with special education often, don't know what to do, or I've seen them sit through those long meetings bored to tears. And so it helps my character that she has a special education background and can support the teachers in their concerns about students and come up with plans for the kids that will help them.
Yeah. And for your readers and listeners who come to school to enjoy that, what would you love for them to take away from the experience?
Well, I think I've often said that if this were a movie, it would be a romantic comedy with serious portions. So my hope is that readers will either reflect on their own school experience and get some chuckles remembering some of the things they experienced. My hope is people who haven't been in a school in 40 years will come away with perhaps more respect for the people who work there, because it is a tough job and an important one.
Very important.
So, I want people to laugh and to be entertained and to have some, maybe some heartfelt moments, maybe even a few tears for some of the characters some of the students who are abused or not given the kind of home life that we would want every child to have. And to also appreciate the job that school administrators do, which is not an easy one. And when you look at people with the same amount of education and training in the private world, make a whole lot more money than a school administrator.
Right.
So, yeah, it's kind of a lot there. I think I once wrote that this was a book that could be enjoyed by anybody who's ever been in 7th grade. It's not, the audience is not young adults, but I could see, some late mature teens reading this and recognizing some of their own school experiences.
Yeah. I've had a lot of, I interview a lot of people, on the podcast. And one of the things, and I've brought it up multiple times because it comes up again and again, is the tremendous, valuable, positive impact one great teacher can have in a child's life.
Absolutely.
It's huge. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, I often remember a student I had many years ago. This came up in some film I was watching, I think, who actually said to me, "Could you be my mom?" I mean, in other words, he was, I guess, adopted, and he had felt a connection with me and wondered if it was possible I could be his mother. And I had to say, no, I've never had a baby, so I don't think so.
Oh.
And I'm thinking of another student who, and this is not necessarily a good thing, but who was a troubled child who contacted me many years later as an adult. And I actually met with him. It was a little weird. I mean, he told me about his time in jail and his many troubles. And it was a little scary, that he wanted to reach out to me. And I kind of figured afterwards, he was remembering me as the 27-year-old who was his teacher way back when. And he realized in that meeting, oh, she got old. So, yeah, it's kids do attach themselves to teachers who take a special interest in them.
Yeah. And so as somebody who did not, you mentioned that you did not have your own kids, right. Did it feel to you like teaching was important to you partly because you didn't have your own kids? Just curious.
Well, I think I've actually written, I think that's in the book, that as an educator, I never had the experience of being up with a child in the middle of the night, up with a sick child. But I certainly took kids to the emergency room and listened to their stories of abuse and advised their parents on how to discipline them and how to motivate them. So I used to say when people asked me when I was working, people asked me if I had kids, I'd say, well, I have 400 of them at this school, or I have 600 of them at this school. So it's certainly not the same thing. But you have to love children to do the job. And so I'm happy that I had a place in the lives of so many of them.
Yeah, I think that's
even
beautiful.
Though I love it when I meet one of my former students, which I do all the time, and I can see the wheels turning in their head and they're remembering the one time they were in the principal's office for misbehaving. And of course, and then they'll ask me and I have no idea what they're talking about.
I remember once, because I taught preschool for many years, I remember once a little boy that he was 3, I think, when I had last seen him. And then I bumped into his mom in a parking lot, and then he showed up, and he was like 6 feet tall or something. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's such extraordinary. And so I think so rewarding being in the lives of kids and being an important figure in their lives. It gives us an opportunity to really make a difference in the world. Because the kindness, the caring that we express and exhibit really does give them an opportunity to ripple that out into their families and their circles. And
And I hope that comes across in the character in the book. I really wanted to show that although she gets annoyed with a lot of people and she can be very snarky, but she really cares.
Yeah. And so as a woman administrator, that you had to deal not just with naughty children, misbehaving children, we'll call them that, but also male administrators, which sometimes can be problematic. Talk to us a little bit about what that was like, both when you started, but then also, sort of how that went going forward.
Yeah. Well, the principal in the book, who is a man, and he's based on some real characters that I know, but of course exaggerated, is a total lack of support to my character. And he's touchy-feely, and that's all very uncomfortable. And there is a fair amount of that goes on in schools as well as everywhere else. So despite the fact that I think the majority of teachers are women, and there are many, many women administrators, there's still those problems that happen in schools. I'll still remember the day when the real person this is based on walked into my office and put his hand down on the desk and said, "My office now." So it's like, excuse me, are you the king or something? I mean, there is still some of that happens. And in my real life, when I became a principal, I had a number of men on my staff. And I have to say, it was hard for a couple of them to take direction from a woman. They had had a male principal for many years. And here this new person walked in. I guess we were about the same age, but they were kind of used to making some decisions that, I felt differently about. And those things still happen. We women have come a long way, but we're not yet where we want to be.
Right. And in some ways, we seem to be currently losing ground. But let's take just a short pause. We're going to come right back and talk a little bit more about your book and then also about the audiobook. Can the new female VP survive an obnoxious boss, earn the respect of troubled teens and clueless teachers, find her inner strength, and maybe love? Find out in Schooled, Confessions of a Rookie Vice Principal by Lenore Hirsch. Cynthia Walker, age 35, leaves teaching to become vice principal at Hamilton Middle School. Ride the roller coaster of her new job with Cynthia, the hilarity and angst of working with tweens. Watch her deal with bomb threats, fire, and pythons on the loose. Bullied kids and abusive parents, dysfunctional homes, teachers without a clue, and a principal who does little work but tries to get close. Is he hitting on her? Meanwhile, she would like to date the handsome and talented history teacher, if only she weren't his supervisor. Schooled will take you back to your own school days. It will make you laugh and will pull at your heartstrings. It will open your eyes to the challenges of public education and the job satisfaction to be found by educators who care. Join Ms. Walker as she stumbles and finds her way, stands up for what she believes, and perhaps finds a lasting love. Get your copy of Schooled, Confessions of a Rookie Vice Principal by Lenore Hirsch on Amplify Audiobooks today. So let's talk just briefly about the character of Derek. Is he based on a real person?
Yeah. So the answer to that is no. When I shared early copies of this novel with friends, their friends said, oh, she enjoyed it so much. But, this Derek character, he's too perfect. It's like he should have some flaw, or there should be some problem that they have to resolve as a couple. And my response was just, he's totally made up. I created the perfect man and I'm not changing him. So
isn't that what every woman wishes they could do, is to create the perfect man?
When you're a writer, you can do that. I did manage, I put in a sequence in the book where Cynthia sees him with another woman. And because she has kind of slow-tracked their intimacy because she's a supervisor, she figures it's all over and he's seeing someone else and blah, blah, blah. And of course, it turns out to be something else. But no, I love the character that I created. He's just a really good teacher, and he's really good looking, and he's patient, and he's polite, and he has a lovely she meets his parents and they're lovely, and he supports her in all of her trials and tribulations with the boss. And they even wear by accident, the same costume on Halloween. How they first make a connection. So
sounds a little like my partner, so I'm happy.
Good. I'm glad to know there are a few real ones out there.
There are a few real ones out there. So let's talk a little bit about the audiobook. And I know that you're not all the way through the production process right now. So let's talk about the parts that you have been through. A lot of our listeners are authors who are thinking about the audiobook process. And so I like to provide them with some real life experiences of what the process is like. Let's talk first about how did you choose your narrator, what that was like?
Well, I had such a good time with that. I mean, I had my first Zoom meeting with the production crew, and I was impressed that the casting director had already read huge chunks of my book and was familiar with the characters and kind of, she made it clear she's not going to read the whole thing, but I was impressed with how knowledgeable she was already. And then we talked in detail about what kind of voice, did I want one narrator or multiple narrators for the different characters? And I only wanted one narrator. Did I want my narrator to dramatize the other voices? And so, we got into the subtlety of, I'd like there to be some distinction in the other voices, but not a whole dramatic presentation, because I kind of figured if I were reading it myself, I wouldn't over dramatize. I would try to just give a little bit of a subtle difference to the different voices. So she listened to that, and not long after she sent me recordings, and then I had to send her excerpts. I chose 3 or 4 short pieces from the book, which included different characters that she then used for the auditions. And then not long after, she sent me the tapes of, I think it was 10 different people that I got to read and consider. And it was a really interesting process. I'm having a great time with it because some of the readers, a lot of it hinged on how they did the different voices and how they did the main character's voice, where she needs to be firm with the students and not sound too naive, but not overly
domineering kind of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was really, and different readers had different strengths and different weaknesses. So I kind of narrowed it down until I came to the one gal who I thought overall did a great job. And I had one little concern about some of her utterances were clipped at the end. But the casting director pointed out to me that was maybe intentional because she was trying to be peppy, and that's something that could be tweaked. So anyway, I'm happy with the person I selected. And I know that assuming she accepts the job, that I'm going to get to have a Zoom with her. And I'm really looking forward to that.
That's great. That's great. Beautiful. I will look forward to chatting with you when you're further into the process or near the end and all of that. Tell our listeners how they can learn more about you and your writing. Like, what's your website?
Okay. Well, my website is LenoreHirsch.com, and it has links to all my other books, some of which you see behind me here. And I've written travel articles and poetry. There is some video on that website as well. I mean, if you just Google my name, you'll come up with my school newsletters from 20 years ago. So I don't know what I can say, I will add the other thing that's been super cool about creating the audiobook is coming up with bonus tracks. So one of the bonus tracks is going to be the first chapter of another book. And then a second bonus track is going to be the epilogue I wrote for Schooled and then decided not to put in the book. But it'll be a bonus track of the audiobook. So I think that's just really fun.
Wonderful. So again, I want to thank you, Lenore Hirsch, author of Schooled, Confessions of a Rookie Vice Principal. Lenore, thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Thank you, Becky. I had a good time. And the dog behaved himself.
And looks so cute. So if you're just listening to this on audio, you're going to have to go check out the video on LenoreHirsch.com so you can see this cute little puppy at the end. Sweet. All right. Thanks, Lenore.
All right. Thanks, Becky.
Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.